Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's discussion. We are going to get started here shortly. I just want to keep an eye on the numbers and see if we've got some people jumping in. It looks like that we do. Amazing. If you guys are tuning in live right now, feel free to jump in the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We've got an amazing discussion planned for everybody today. There's going to be a lot of different topics. We're going to touch on a bunch of different things. During or throughout this whole conversation, we definitely encourage you guys to tune in, ask questions, comment in the chat. We want to hear your insights. We're going to be looking at that throughout the discussion. Awesome. Looks like we've got a lot of people.
A lot of people from a lot of places.
Yeah, we got California, Utah, a couple of Texans. I'm currently streaming out of Houston right now.
You're in Houston?
Yeah, for right now. So for the summer, I'm doing kind of a short-term stay here.
Because you like the heat and humidity, right?
Yeah, and the 8 million people. That's just, I love the hot stickiness, crowdedness of it. Yeah, but the food is good. It's going to be, that's one thing that I do love about this town. But coming from Austin, it's not too far away, but definitely a lot more humid. You're right.
Yeah, awesome. I saw somebody from Oakland, California, which is where I am right now.
Nice. Wow, we got people all over. This is great.
Oh, somebody's asking if you like crawfish.
Oh, I'm a big crawfish guy. My mom is from Louisiana, so it's like in my DNA. We have our own crawfish boil, the whole setup. We do it every year. That's a good time. Yeah, the Texas / Cajun upbringing has allowed me to enjoy some good food.
Cue the Zydeco music.
Awesome. Cool. Well, it looks like the attendee numbers are hovering around the same. So it looks like everybody is joined in. So it looks like we can go ahead and get started. Well, welcome everybody to our most recent discussion, the state of online reviews, new data, new rules. We have a jam-packed session planned for you guys today. Like I just said, we're going to be hitting all kinds of great topics. We're going to be talking about the impact of your online reviews as they stand today. We're going to have some statistics from some of our most recent data reports and studies that can help you get a better idea of how you're stacking up against some of the other folks in your industry, as well as just around the country. We've got a ton of stuff coming up for you. But before we jump into that, I want to quickly walk you guys through our webinar dashboard. We've got clearly we've got some people who have discovered the chat section, which is great. Feel free to jump in there at any time during this discussion. We're going to be looking at it, bringing in your questions. We want this to be an interactive discussion because we're going to be taking a look at the state of the industry. We're going to be talking about, the different challenges people are facing, the different challenges businesses are facing. So if there's anything from your experience, whether you have a challenge that you're dealing with that you're hoping to find a solution for, let us know. It's going to be a real, we want to have this conversation with you guys. So be sure to be in the chat. There should also be a button for Q&A. If you have an official question that you'd like to make sure that we can answer live, feel free to do that and put that in the Q&A section. That might be a little bit easier because as you can see, the chat kind of can go crazy sometimes, and I don't want to miss any of the questions that you guys are submitting. So if you have something, more pertinent to like the topic and exactly what we're talking about, feel free to do that.
And just like AI, if I don't know the answer to something, I'll make it up.
Yeah, we'll hallucinate something for you guys. And then there also should be a tab that says Docs. There we have provided some really cool additional resources to continue your learning. I think we've got we've got the guides that we're going to be talking about today, the state of online reviews and the state of Google business profiles. As we go through this presentation and you see the slide deck, you'll notice some statistics, and those numbers are found from these reports. We've also got a couple of blogs. And then as of this week, actually, we just opened the registration for our Birdeye View 2024 virtual event. And that is going to be our second virtual event that we've hosted. It's going to be 2 days long. I think we're going to have like 20, 22, 23 different sessions with industry experts and people from all different kinds of industries and businesses and backgrounds to talk about how AI is entering the marketplace for local businesses, how you can use AI to expand your online visibility and your presence, as well as other best practices for really making yourself stand out and shine online. It is an unbelievable event. We did it last year and we had a huge turnout, and we're hoping to have the same thing come again this year. But the best part about it is that it's completely free, and it's 2 days long of just nonstop helpful thought leadership content that you guys can take on and hopefully use it to continue your learning and advance your strategies and online reputation. So definitely be sure to check that out. Awesome. Yep. So it looks like, Greg, you're asking how many folks are using AI tools today. This is great. That's actually a great question because I want to get a sense for the audience and where everybody's at. And then lastly, if you want to learn more about us, the speakers, you can have that there should be a tab at the top. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, send us a message, say hello. We'd love to hear from you. And then lastly, I want to remind everybody that if you have to tune out early, if you have another meeting or, you're not able to stay for the whole time, don't worry, because you will be sent an email with a link to the recording. Also, that email should come around this time tomorrow. But if you have some time later today where you want to finish the webinar, feel free to use the same link that you use to join right now. That'll be usable. It'll work for you later on too. So when you want to watch the recording. Great. Now that we got that stuff out of the way, let's now say hello to our guest speaker. So please join me in welcoming Greg Sterling. Greg, thank you so much for joining today. It's really awesome to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I've really enjoyed working with you in the run up to this, and this is important material for people to know about, and looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. And it seems like there is a lot of questions surrounding Google. I mean, Apple just came out with some updates around AI and ChatGPT. There just seems to be a lot going on. But before we jump into all of that, can you quickly tell us a little bit more about your background and your experience, how you got into local search marketing?
Yes, long time ago, I was a lawyer. I hated it. I got out of it, and then I got into working with various startups and editorial content. I became an analyst for a company that did Yellow Pages consulting, and as you see on the slide, I think I actually wrote the first white paper on local search and whether it was going to destroy the Yellow Pages industry or not, which, believe it or not, was a kind of an open question. Unsettled question back in 2002 or whenever the hell I wrote that, 2001, 2002. And since that time, I've been working in various capacities doing research as a marketer, in the local space. And local is, I won't go into, this is a long conversation, which I'll just give you in a very succinct way. Local really is anything having to do with consumers using the internet to find information about the area, it's the real world, somewhere near where they are now or where they're going. It involves local business, small business, franchises, and kind of national to local brands. So it's a really big category encompassing a lot of stuff, a lot of different facets. And it's been really fascinating. I've really enjoyed it for the last 25 years, remarkably, amazingly. So here we are. That brings us here today.
And within, that 25 years, the evolution of the local space online and even in person has completely transformed. So what inspired you to co-found Dialog, and what are the main goals of that company?
Yeah, so there are two things going on. I've got Near Media, which is really about SEO and very focused on Google and local ranking. And then I work with two other guys there. And then Dialog is a separate project about how AI is disrupting or impacting the kind of software market and the local space, with an emphasis on small business, but not exclusively. Just what inspired me to found that is really the fact that nobody was kind of looking at the overlap of local SaaS and and AI, and there was a need in the market and a lot of interesting things to talk about and think about there. And we're advising software companies, but also doing primary research with local businesses and agencies and franchisees. So a lot of really dynamic space right now. Very interesting.
That's incredible. And it sounds like with those two pieces, you're the perfect person to have on today's webinar, because that's exactly what we're going to be digging into. And
Right.
also, if you
But
guys
I don't know
not...
everything. I don't know everything. I have to disclaim that up front. I know some things, but not everything.
Yeah, same here. I'll put that disclaimer out for myself as well. But if you guys have not had a chance, I definitely recommend checking out Greg's articles on Near Media under the news section. Your breakdowns of the current state of everything, how it could impact local businesses, and just really impact consumers is incredible. So definitely, if you guys haven't had a chance to, check that out. Now let's dig into it. And I think a good place to start is first by taking a look at where we currently stand. So Greg, can you give us your thoughts? Are we on the right slide? Yeah. What are your thoughts on the current online landscape for local businesses? How does the Google, and then actually, let's just start with that. And then I've got a follow-up question that I want to ask, but I want to wait to answer this one. So what's your current take on the current landscape?
6 hours later, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I think, this is a very, very volatile time in search marketing and in local. A lot of things are happening. A lot of things are changing. There's regulation. There's the introduction of AI. There's Google introducing a lot of new changes to the algorithm in an attempt to sort of fend off competitors and prevent user defection. So there's just lots of stuff happening. I think Google, if anything, seems to be doubling down on local. It's a really important aspect of their search product, and really arguably their big competitive differentiator. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's sort of where I'll stop for now.
I think that's perfect. Now, if the people here haven't heard yet, Google recently has been making headlines recently for a few different things, but one of those is a recent Google search data leak. Have you had a chance to dive into that? And is there anything from that leak that maybe changes things for SEOs or for the online, for people, businesses with their online reputation? Is there anything that we should make sure to keep in mind, following the details of that?
To take the second part of that first, I don't think it really changes anything about online reputation and how you manage it and its importance. And we'll get into that in a little bit. The Google Search API leak was a set of documents that showed up on GitHub, and people started, kind of unpacking them. There's a lot of technical information in there that I don't fully understand. But a lot of people who are more technically inclined than I do have really dug through it. It's not the case that this gives you a magic key to SEO success, but it hints at a lot of factors that Google may be looking at in trying to rank content in search results. There's sort of too much to go into in any depth, but what I would say between the Search API leak and the earlier antitrust trial documents, the big takeaway is that Google looks at user engagement and click data as a ranking factor. So that Google has always denied this, but it's really pretty clear at this point that they're really looking at how users engage with your website or business profile, and whether or not you're getting clicks, and whether those clicks are kind of just quick clicks and then bounce backs, or whether there's actually time spent on site. So behavioral signals emerge as an important consideration for ranking. You can't really do anything about that except to make your content really useful and good and helpful for your customers, which is something that Google says anyway. There's not a lot you can do to increase engagement. I mean, you could do sort of clickbaity titles and things like that, but you really shouldn't do that. So clicks emerge as a central factor in Google's search rankings, which is contrary to what they've always said. So I'll stop there.
That's interesting. So on the business side, and with the audience that we have here, we've got people from small businesses to larger businesses with tons of locations. I think we've even got some agency folks here too. But let's say not a massive multi-location industry, like enterprise level business, but not a small business, like let's say 10 to 15 locations. what are some of the challenges that businesses today may be facing when it comes to online search? Looking at the comments, Lauren is saying that using AI can feel daunting, not sure where to start. That's a big deal because things are happening so quickly. You start playing with one tool and all of a sudden there's a new one that's 10 times more advanced the next day. It's crazy. But from what you've seen in your experience, what are some of the challenges that the businesses are facing right now?
Well, there's a bunch of challenges sort of expanding beyond local, just dealing with sort of all the channels, all the marketing channels that exist today, search and video and email and social media, all of these things. It's really, really challenging for businesses to kind of keep up with them and do them equally well. You can't. People don't have enough time. They don't have enough expertise. In the search world, in local in particular, in a certain way, things are changing all the time, but in a certain way, the basics remain the same. You need to claim and fully populate your Google business profile. You need images, you need reviews, you need to have engaging content. So those kinds of general principles, I think, have been pretty consistent over time. Google is emphasizing different things and will tweak things and will add buttons and will move the placement of this piece or that piece. And so that kind of thing changes all the time. And one of the things that's important to understand is that your Google business profile or your digital presence more broadly isn't a set it and forget it thing. You really have to monitor it, provide regular updates to the extent that they're relevant. And your reputation in particular is something that you really have to manage on an ongoing basis. Again, that's something that really is important and has to be focused on and carefully managed.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we're at a point where it's never been easier for a business to get online and start developing their brand and their presence and start growing. But it's also definitely the most complicated, because as easy as it is to get online, it's a lot harder now to manage it, because of what you were saying, with all the different channels between Google business profiles, which you would have to have a unique one for each location if you have a bunch of different locations, or if you're an agency and you have multiple clients with tons of different locations, you're still going to be juggling a lot of just Google profiles. But that also includes your landing page, on your website, your location pages, your Facebook pages, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and then all the other websites on the internet where your business information is listed. It quickly becomes just a monster of, channels.
I would add content creation. I think is particularly difficult right now because the old style of content creation that people would do, which is do keyword research, figure out where there were some less competitive keywords, and then build content around that. I think that doesn't really work anymore. Google's advice is make useful content, make helpful content for people, but trying to figure out what that means and where to place your emphasis, I think is more complicated now than it has been in the past. I think that's a big challenge. And, this is an area where AI can be both helpful and also problematic, because one of the most common use cases now for AI, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and other tools, Claude, is that people are, there's a lot of people creating a lot of content with the AI, which can be sort of generic. And you can't really exclusively rely on it to create content. You can use it for certain things, but you can't turn your content creation over to AI. And Google is actively trying to prevent a lot of the AI sort of spam that's making its way into search results. So that's a big challenge.
Definitely. And it seems there will be a premium on a specific type of content, which is user generated content, because this is going to be, feedback, and this is essentially reviews. And that's because this is feedback about a business from real verified humans, customers who are, have experience with the business. And I feel like that's going to be something that's going to be really important moving forward, especially as more things online become AI generated or just automatically created. There's going to be a lot more value placed on those real human interactions and experiences. And so I think that's a perfect way we can move on to our next subject, which is the impact of online reviews. And as you were saying, things change all the time. Google's constantly making tweaks and updates, whether they're adding a new button or even just recently they announced that they're going to be sunsetting Google Business Messages. And, there's all these changes that seem to happen. But one of the things that seems to always stay the same is that customer feedback, those reviews are always kind of there at the foundation. Why are reviews so critical for businesses today? Do you think they're going to remain important? And what hurdles are businesses facing when it comes to managing them, whether it's generating them, responding, or tracking?
Well, definitely reviews are going to remain important. Reviews are used by 90+% of people across different sectors, products and services, to make buying decisions. There's review spam, review fraud. That makes it challenging for the consumer user. But there's no question that reviews have been important. They will continue to be important. They're one of Google's prominence ranking variables in the local space: relevance, proximity, and prominence, which is a kind of kitchen sink collection of things, including reputation. So I think there's no doubt, and reviews, are a ranking factor. Absolutely. So you need to focus on them. As you pointed out, soliciting reviews in an ethical way, responding to reviews, especially if you're in your hypothetical 15 location business, are really challenging. It's easier in some respects for a single location business or a very small business that has one service area business to manage reviews than it is for a larger chain or multi-location entity. And typically they don't do a very good job at it, absent some software platform that can automate a lot of that stuff. We can talk about review solicitation. That's a whole kind of sub-discipline of local search in itself, and there are definitely some best practices there. And so people have specific questions, we can get into that. But that's something that you need to actively do. You need to ask your customers in an ethical way for reviews. Don't bribe them, don't put them in, offer them money, offer them discounts in exchange for reviews, but just have a process in which you say, leave us a review, whether it's email, whether it's in-person request, whether it's over the phone. In person and over the phone can be very effective. But incorporate it into your process. And if you work with the software platform, that's obviously something that, would be part of that package.
Yeah. From the conversations that we've had with customers and other folks in the industry and other, SEO and marketing agencies, that's definitely one of the biggest challenges that we've seen is the generation of reviews. Looking at the chat, there's we've got a couple people saying that, generating more reviews, making it easier to leave reviews is something that has been able to help. And going back to what you were saying, that process is vital. And I think that's something that a lot of people might not keep in mind is it's really easy to have a week where you're pumped up and you're like, all right, we're going to ask everybody for a review this week. We're going to really prioritize it. It's going to be great. And you may get results. The hard part is doing it the week after and the week after and 6 months later and a year later, because that's how you really start to see those results, is when you can stay consistent on it day in and day out. And it's a culture thing. It's a culture and a technology thing. And, from looking at the comments here, I'm seeing that we had somebody, it looks like, where was it? Zach. Yeah, Zach is saying that he added a request in his email signature with a link to the landing page for leaving reviews, and that has helped a lot. And that's an amazing idea, and that's a great tactic to use. And it's
and somebody else was talking about being too pushy and asking for reviews, and something like that is not a pushy thing, right? I mean, I think there's an art here. There's a sort of an art and science kind of balancing act, which is don't put pressure on people to leave reviews. Don't be too aggressive, but just make it a casual thing that you do on a regular basis. You're not going to get everybody to leave a review, and that's fine. But but just ask as a matter of routine, and do it in a way that seems natural or somewhat natural, and don't lean on people or be too in your face with it.
Oh yeah. And you're completely right. There is a psychology to it, being, for example, if you're using something like Birdeye, where with our platform, you can send out an automated review request to every single customer and you don't even have to think about it. But when you can combine, and the psychology comes in is when you're with them in person and you can say, hey, thank you so much for your business. I hope you enjoyed our services. Just wanted to give you a heads up. You may be getting a text or an email with a link asking for a review. If you really enjoyed your time or your experience, we'd love to hear your feedback. So just wanted to let you know to keep your eyes peeled for that. And just mentioning that ahead of time already puts them in the state of mind of like, okay, I wasn't necessarily planning on it, but if I'm getting the text, I might. And then they already might start writing that review in their head. And then that text hits them. And then, yeah.
Sorry, I keep jumping in. I apologize.
No, you're good.
You definitely want to do this in the context of feedback, right? You want their feedback. Businesses should want customer feedback. I mean, this is not just about ranking on Google. This is really about getting an understanding of your customer experience and being able to address some of the things that they say. Customers say critical things. They also say helpful things. And really, far too few people look at reviews with an intention of getting feedback. They sort of treat them as this instrumentality. It's a means to an end. It's a means to me ranking, or I got to get to such and such a rating score. But really, in the context of feedback, it's much more natural. Hey, we're interested to know how if we did a good job. If you liked what we did, please leave us a review, whatever. I mean, you're not supposed to only solicit reviews from people who have good experiences, but I mean, there's a way to just do this in a more natural way that also gives you valuable feedback about your business, because that can help you in ways that are sometimes predicted. But
yeah,
anyway,
definitely. And from what I was just seeing, someone had asked, like, when you make it easier for people to leave a review, are you seeing an increase in negative reviews? And I think a lot of times you'll find that maybe that isn't the case. A lot of times the people who will leave a negative review, they're going to leave one no matter what. They're emotionally charged. Maybe they're upset. They didn't have a great experience. But it's those people who had a pretty good experience, they had a 5-star experience, but it's not like it was something that absolutely blew their socks off where they want to go out of their way to leave a review. So when you can give them their opportunity and make it easy for them, there's a much higher chance they'll leave that review. So when you can ask everybody for a review and you make it easy for them, you're really maximizing your chance to receive those good ones. And that also helps, minimize the negative reviews, or at least the proportion of negative reviews. Have you found anything along those lines when it comes to the increase of negative reviews with requests? Or have you kind of found something?
Yeah, I have an answer. I have a sort of a data-based answer for you, or data-backed answer for you. But let me just say first that one of the reasons why people leave angry reviews or frustrated reviews or critical reviews is because they had a bad experience and they couldn't get anybody to address it, right? That's not 100% of the case, but it's often the case. A lot of the negative reviews are service-oriented reviews. This person didn't call me back, or they didn't respond to me in the way that I want. Whatever. When you invite feedback for people, you're taking the pressure. They're going to write a critical review because they didn't have a way to talk to you. If you give them a way to talk to you, you siphon off some of that hostility or some of that frustration, and you can address their problem. I mean, I'm not saying, do this sort of review gating process where the negative person goes over here and the positive person goes over here. But if you make it easy for them to contact you and talk to you, then they won't have the same emotional need to write the critical review. What they're looking for, there are kooks out there, and there's some people that you can never satisfy. But what they're looking for is to be heard and to have their complaint addressed, or to have their problem addressed. So give them that channel, give them that opportunity, make feedback easy. And then in terms of the negative versus positive reviews, this all comes back to business fundamentals. If you are running a successful, good business with a good customer experience, the majority of your reviews are going to be positive. There may be a couple of critical reviews, but that doesn't hurt you. If consumers see only 5-star reviews, if you've got 1,000 5-star reviews, that's going to look suspicious, because it's like, how does any business get 5-star reviews 100% of the time? And it's going to look like there's some stuff going on behind the scenes that isn't completely ethical. If you've got a business that's in the 4, the sweet spot is really 4 point something to 5. And if you, depending on what your competition is, and if you're in that zone, people are going to, see that as more credible. So if 100% of your customers give you reviews and you're basically doing a good job, you're going to have many more positive reviews than negative reviews. There's a study that backs that up that I can send people to, so you don't have to worry about selectively soliciting reviews of only the customers who like you.
Definitely. I think that's a great point. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more about how to manage this stuff here in a couple more slides. But I'd like to quickly touch on the fact that when it comes to online reviews, Google is still king. According to our recent report, The State of Online Reviews, this is a report where we analyzed over 150,000 different businesses that fall under the Birdeye umbrella. And so one thing to know is that with this data, these are the Birdeye customers who are using our software. And so we're seeing, the impact of Birdeye, with these customers. But something that we have been seeing is that out of those 150,000 different businesses, 79% of the online reviews that we've got are on Google. And I think that just goes straight to the point that this is where customers are, this is where they're finding businesses, and that's where they're leaving their feedback. And as well as, we've been seeing an increase in positive reviews as well. And I think that goes back to the point of, the ability to ask and stay consistent with asking. And you're starting to see the impact of that. And, we're starting to see more reviews coming in that are on the positive way. Now, one thing I do want to touch on quickly is a little bit more of this Google dominance. And Greg, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. With 79% of all online reviews, what factors drive this dominance? Do you see this trend continuing? I know with all the different changes that we were talking about earlier, is there room for other players to join the review conversation? What kind of contributes to this dominance, do you think?
Well, obviously, Google isn't the only place online where there are reviews. There are other sites where people leave reviews. Reviews are, sort of across the internet. But Google, in the local space, Google is the dominant player. Travel is a sort of a different conversation, but Google is the dominant player because it's got all the eyeballs, it's got all the reach. It's the place where people focus their attention because it is so dominant now. Apple is an important place for local information, but nowhere near as dominant as Google is. And then Google also has a program which many people on the webinar may know about and some may not know about, called the Local Guides program. That was a program that Google established years ago, I don't recall the precise date, to accelerate reviews specifically and other kinds of content in Google Business Profiles, images, and other kinds of data. And Local Guides is a structured program that has incentives, and there are annual events and things like that, and it's very organized. And I think about little over I think it varies by category, but more than half of the reviews that you see are from Local Guides. And so this is a sort of a volunteer workforce that is going out with the intention of elevating their there's levels. You can be a Local Guide level 2, level 5, level 9, and these people are trying to sort of get higher in the ranks, and they do that by adding content, by leaving reviews, by uploading photos, and by correcting information that's incorrect. And so that's the other piece of it: Google's dominance, and then the structured program on the back end.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Looking at the
one thing, Justin, one thing I wanted to say before it slips out of my brain is that social media is really important. I mean, most business owners are focused on social media as well as search, but it is a place increasingly that people are going for authentic information, not reviews per se, but review-like information that you get in video, short form video, very often on TikTok, mm-hmm. or similar content on Instagram. So that's an important area to pay attention to. Google will continue to be dominant, but social media has a increasingly important role to play.
Definitely. And I think that can also be, I think this alludes to the same comment that, where is it? We have too many comments. Everybody's chatting. There was one person that said something that was really interesting that kind of made me, reminded me of what you were just saying. But they were basically, Google may have the visibility, but do they have the trustworthiness? Because there could be all kinds of issues or clearly fake reviews or things like that. But one thing about social media is that obviously you can have anonymous accounts, but when you see a TikToker on camera and they're holding a product or they're going into the business and they're showing themselves having this experience with the business, that carries a lot of impact. And we're going to talk more about social media as well. But what I want to stick on the Google stuff, because the next thing I want to talk about is your managing your Google business profile, which is kind of your digital storefront. And so, Greg, do you have any strategies or recommendations for managing a business profile effectively and generating online reviews?
Well, so at the highest level, you need to claim and verify your profile. I mean, I'm sure that everybody on here has done a version of that. You need to populate it as fully as possible. Images are very important. Correct business hours are very important. Correct business category is critical. You're going to see reviews from and other sort of content from social media show up there as well. The review piece we just talked about a bit. That's a kind of it's obviously present on your Google Business Profile, but it's a separate process that we just went into, and we'll talk a little bit more about in the future. So it's really claim, populate, and update. You need to have regular sort of activity, but don't make that just perfunctory. Make it sort of meaningful. So add pictures on a regular basis. People, to this point about digital storefront, people really want to get a sense of what the experience is going to be. They want to see, it depends on the category. If you're a healthcare provider, if you're a doctor, they want to see the doctor. They want to see the, the people working in the office. They want to see what the place looks like. If you're a restaurant, they want to see images of the interior. They want to see menus, so it varies by category. And what you're doing is you're giving them a sense of what it's like to be there, what the experience they're going to have is, and you're giving them confidence to contact you or to buy from you. So you want complete information, you want correct information, you want it to be updated on a regular basis, and images are really, really important.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point, especially with the images. We actually just got a question from somebody about images. And they're asking, what images do you suggest for insurance agents?
Well, I mean, so you could the agent, right, or the agents plural, depending on how many people are in the office. You're friendly, you're credible, helpful. You're conveying sort of a sense of service and helpfulness, and people can have a sense of empathy, right? Oh, this is a person that looks trustworthy, or I like the way that person looks. I mean, how do images help us different from text, right? You get a lot of information from an image that in a text description wouldn't be as kind of impactful. So, I would definitely include images of the agents, the exterior of the building, if there's any kind of site visitation.
The parking lot is also a good one. People love to know what the parking situation is like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can ask people informally, what information would you like, if I'm taking pictures of my business, and what kinds of things would you like to see? You might get some ideas. Just ask people informally, but definitely the location, the people, and anything that's sort of unique or quirky or local, just that gives it personality, right? Stock images are bad. Don't use stock images. Real images, real people of the place, and convey the personality.
Yeah, and especially with, like you were saying, with a business like insurance, where your agent is developing a relationship with their clients, and it's a very face-to-face. It's it's a relationship.
Yeah,
having
exactly.
those faces on Google shows like, hey, this is who we are. These are the people behind the logo.
This is who you're going to be dealing with. This is a friendly person. This is a credible, trustworthy person.
Definitely. And that's the big part of, and this is something that I've always felt like when it comes to your online reputation, with your relationship with your prospects and customers online, and your relationship with Google, is building trust is key. Whether you're building trust with Google so they can trust you to rank you higher, or you're building trust with your customers so they can trust to choose your business. It's a lot of establishing that trust. And that's kind of how I think about it when thinking about a business profile. It's like, okay, what would give people more confidence in my business? So what services can I provide so that they know that I provide those services? All of these different things. So the next thing that I wanted to cover is a little, we can brush by on this one, but this is about activity on your Google business profile. What are the important factors of your business profile that will, catch Google's attention, so to speak? And something that I've heard about before is activity. And does the overall activity on a business profile, such as whether it's the business posting the pictures or posting Google event posts, things like that, responding to reviews, does that capture, or is that captured by Google? Or is it people, the amount, I think you mentioned the data leak, but I'm not sure if this is the same thing, but is that, the clicks on the profile, all of these things? What have you seen when it comes to the level of activity on a business profile that could impact their presence?
Well, I want to be careful about making any sort of recommendations that, translate into just a sort of an automatic thing, like every week you should do this. I don't think that necessarily applies. I think you want to have regular activity, which is change content that is meaningful, add images, add, do business posts if it's relevant, update your profile as the circumstances dictate. If there's a new menu item, update your, publish an image of that, whatever. It really should be organic and not this sort of perfunctory SEO cynical kind of approach. But there's definitely suggestions that regular activity and user engagement on your profile matter and are useful in increasing your visibility. I mean, the challenge with any of these things is people latch onto them and then just sort of do them robotically, and that's not what Google wants to see, and that doesn't necessarily help you. But I mean, images is an example that just keeps coming to mind. If you hire a new person, if you add a new menu item, if you move, well, moving is a totally different story. I don't want to even talk about that. But just do things that are organic. It's not set it and forget it. If your hours are changing, if there's an attribute, there are all these attributes that you should use if they apply to you. Add secondary business categories if they're relevant. So there's just a lot of stuff you can do. Do it organically. Don't do it in a robotic, sort of cynical way.
Mm-hmm. And going back real quickly to the first thing that you said, when it comes to managing and optimizing your business profile, is to get it verified. And from our reports from the state of online, or the state of Google business profiles, we found that 64% of businesses right now have verified their business profile, which is not a whole lot. It's still, you're still missing a third of businesses that are on Google, but their profile is not verified. And that feels like, to me, a huge opportunity to, boost your own presence. If if 2 out of 3 are verified, then that leaves a 33% gap for you to jump in and kind of take on that area. Now, I mentioned this earlier and we slightly touched on it, but let's talk a little bit about social media and Google, and how it seems social media may be moving or finding its way into the search results a little bit more. Google and Reddit seem to be having a little bit closer of a relationship. I feel like I've seen a lot more Reddit threads in the search results. Has there been any recent changes on that front, or is there, do you want to expound on your thoughts from earlier about social media?
Yeah, my attention is split between you and I'm watching the chat stream and trying to respond to people. It's like, what did you ask me? What was that? Yeah, I don't think I think you can't have a GBP if you're totally e-commerce business. I think, just to respond to Mary. I mean, somebody else can confirm that, but I think you have to be a service business, or you have to have a physical location. I mean, you can fake it, but anyway, all right. I will turn my attention away from the chat. So social media is very important. Again, we go back to the challenges of managing all these channels, but figure out where your customers, social media will get you into Google. It's a way to it's a backdoor into SEO as well. So you've got Google Business Profile, you've got your website. And then if you have a presence on social media, that's going to be indexed. So whether it's, Reddit, Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of these, they will help you in search because Google is indexing a lot of that content. Now, you don't want to be everywhere all the time, because unless you have an unlimited staff and unlimited resources, that's just going to be difficult to do. So figure out where your customers are. Where are your customers spending time? Which channels are they on? And you can do that, just by asking them where they spend time, and then focus on those things. And also just look at search results for your category. What is showing up, right? When you do searches for when you do categories-based searches for your kind of business, or the keywords that people would use to find your business, what else is there? What sort of social sites are there? What is it, what does the search result page look like? And then, figure out where your customers are spending time and what resources they're using. Just talk to them, get that, do an informal poll, use a Google form to collect poll, data from your customers. Hey, do you use Instagram? Do you use TikTok? Do you use this to find businesses like ours? Or where did you find us? Absolutely ask people how they found you. And so by doing that, you'll understand your customer behavior, and you'll have a better sense of where to put your efforts. All local businesses are basically on Facebook and Instagram, not as many on TikTok, fewer still doing Reddit. YouTube is also very valuable, as it's kind of a quasi social media site. That's a very valuable place to post content if it's relevant to you, and if you have the inclination, how to, fix common problems with XYZ, or here's the thing to look for, or this is how you make a decision about this product. That kind of stuff is very valuable to consumers. It will also help you rank.
Definitely. I'm seeing a lot of chatter about video verification.
Yeah.
And that is something that I've definitely had to deal with as well for businesses and things like that. And it's just one of those things, I see a comment here that says it took me 5 video verification calls to get one verified. Someone, there are definitely some
verification, unless you were going to talk about them, there are verification best practices that Birdeye, I think, can point to, include some URLs that outline that for people after the fact, as well as dealing with suspensions.
Definitely. So we've got about 12 more minutes, and I wanted to shift gears now. And, we talked about the current state. We talked about some of the challenges and a little bit about the ways we can overcome those challenges. And we'll talk more about some solutions as well. But I want to now look a little bit more towards the future. Let's talk about AI, some of the trends that you're seeing. How do you see AI generated search results? Or actually, this might be a twofold question. So first, let's touch on the AI generated search results and the featured snippets. Do you see those playing a role in SEO and local businesses moving forward? Where do those stand right now? I feel like I've been hearing, Google had them up and now they're not as popular. Where is that right now?
All these verification questions coming through. You guys will get some verification information, but continue to answer those questions if you have good tips. AI overviews, which people may or may not be familiar with, which is typically appear at the top of search results, were part of a big test that Google did for about a year in Google Labs. If you were opted into Google Labs, you would see AI search results at the top of the page. They were showing them for a lot of queries, 80+%. They rolled them out after their developer conference, and there were some embarrassing things that happened. Incorrect information. I don't need to go into it. You can search for that. There's a lot of examples, and they've now dialed it way back. So you're only seeing AI overviews at the top of search results for about 8, 9, 10% of queries. It's unclear what they're going to be. How they say they're committed to it, and they presumably will expand that in the future. In local, you're seeing almost 0% AI overviews right now. But this is definitely probably something that people will need to deal with from an SEO standpoint. And there's a lot of advice being given about how you need to think about getting into those, being a link in those AI overviews and getting your content featured in AI overviews. It's sort of too much for me to go into right now. I don't think there's any definitive information. It's still very much an evolving situation, and we'll see what happens. But it's something to monitor. It's something to be aware of. But general SEO best practices will help you regardless.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to those reviews, is with everything being AI, having those human verified accounts of how amazing your business is are going to mean a lot. And it's one of those things, going back to the comments that we saw earlier, AI can be very daunting. I mean, ChatGPT has been out for a year and a half, and to think about what it was when it came out, which we thought was world shattering then, is nothing compared to what it is now, 18 months later. It's quite surreal to see how quickly things are advancing, and they only seem to be advancing faster. When it comes to leveraging AI, how would you approach that from the business perspective if you wanted to use that for your online marketing, whether that's with SEO or content creation? How would you recommend businesses evaluate which AI tools to use, and then how they can start to implement those without being overwhelmed?
Well, there are a lot of AI tools, right? And every software company now talks about AI because, that's the way you get attention and investor, high fives. So AI is integrated to varying degrees, and AI means different things. But what we're talking about now is generative AI, which is based on large language models that are trained. So they are designed to sort of mimic human responses based on the sort of totality of information that they've been fed, and the quality of that information can be good or it can be weak, which impacts the quality of the answers that come out. There's ChatGPT, which everybody should be playing with. It's free. ChatGPT 4 is free. You don't need an account, I believe, to use it now. Just play around with that. That can help you do everything from outlining blog posts, creating content calendars, generating articles, generating ideas, images. There's a lot of stuff it can do. Always exercise editorial oversight, always exercise human judgment. It can be wrong. There can be inaccuracies in the information. So double check, understand what you're writing about. Don't just, say, an example would be, I need to write an article about HVAC repair for my website. And then, what should be in this article? And then it will spit out an outline. And then you can say, we'll write that article. And then it will come up with an article, which may or may not be accurate. But you can use it. You can use it to write business descriptions. You can use it to write title tags. You can use it to do all kinds of things. And so you need to experiment and engage with it. Read online how people are using AI. Use these tools. Google Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude is another one. That's from a company called Anthropic. And then there are a lot of very specialized tools out there that do different things. And just get your whatever the metaphor is, get dirt under your fingernails, get your hands dirty, roll up your sleeves, have some direct experience with these things, and then you'll have a better sense of how you can use it in your business. But don't turn over all your content creation, all your website content to AI. You can take a bunch of user reviews and put them into ChatGPT from a spreadsheet and say, tell me what these are saying, or tell me who the best reviews, what do people like about my business? What do people not like? There's a lot of things you can do, kind of too much to elaborate here. I don't know if that's getting at what you were hoping for.
No, I think that's perfect, because that's a perfect segue into the next thing I want to talk about. And when it comes to evaluating AI tools and evaluating what tools are right for you, I think the important thing is to kind of peel back the layer of the AI talk, because like you were saying, pretty much every company now is somewhat involved in AI in some way, right?
We're saying they are.
Yeah, or saying they are. I think that's the important part to peel back, is say, okay, what actually are they doing, and is it solution focused? Because a lot of things that are out there right now are AI for the sake of being AI, or even if they're not really, it's more just like an automation thing. And so one of the things that I encourage everybody to do is to check out some of the things that Birdeye is doing, because this is something that we've been a part of for a long time. Well before ChatGPT, we've been implementing automation and machine learning into our platform for a while. And as it relates to your online presence, this is our bread and butter. And so going back to the review side of it, within the Birdeye platform, you can automate all of your review requests, and you can do that through text and through email. And that includes buttons to Google. You can have a button for Google, for Facebook, for Angie's List, and you can also have a contact us directly button as well. And whenever you can automate that process, the process of generating reviews, and I'm saying automate instead of using AI because it's just automation. This is something that's supposed to make it easier for you to stay consistent with this side of things. That just makes it, just being able to know that with the click of a button, that all of your customers will be getting a request for a review, can make you sleep easier at night, because now you know that you're maximizing your chances to receive a review. And then the best part about that is that with the Birdeye platform, it doesn't matter how many locations you have. Doesn't matter if you have 200, if you have 2, if you have 1, you'll be able to manage all of the responses or manage all those reviews when they come in. And going back to what you were saying about uploading the review sheet into ChatGPT, Birdeye does that immediately for you, and it can give you alerts. So let's say you receive a review at 2 a.m. from an angry customer, you'll get an alert from Birdeye saying, hey, by the way, we just caught this negative review. You might want to take care of it. And so
hopefully you're not up at 2 a.m.
But no, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's really cool because it provides these sentiment analysis and these scorecards and these reports that allow you to decipher the difference. Okay, how is my Washington location doing compared to my Florida location? I'm seeing different sentiment here, but people are really happy about this thing over there. You can really break it down. And then on the AI side, this is where we can really this is where the cool stuff is. You can respond to all of your reviews using AI, using the large language model. But when you do that, always read, always review it, edit, tweak it, however you want. But this makes it a lot easier just to go through your reviews, because if you've got hundreds of reviews that you want to respond to, because it's really important to respond to the negative ones especially, but you want to respond to all of your reviews. And to do that day in and day out, as you have more locations, this gets a lot more cumbersome. And to be able to have an AI read your review, write a response for it, you just got to tweak it, maybe not even tweak it at all if it looks good, and send it out. In those little moments, that's an extra 2 minutes here of time saved. That stuff adds up. And over the course of hundreds or thousands of reviews over the course of a year, that could be hours or days of time saved. In addition to that, on top of managing and requesting reviews and responding to them and monitoring them, we also have the ability to help you manage your listings. So your Google business profiles. So if you have 200 locations and you guys are closed for the 4th of July, but you don't have that updated yet, you can update it in Birdeye and it will apply to all of them. And then the same thing, just like your business listings with all the different all the different profiles and things like that, it's the same thing for social. So you can have 200 Facebook pages for your 200 locations, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. You'll be able to manage and create content, which we also have some cool AI features in there for image and caption creation is there as well. That is really kind of the whole, the cusp of it with Birdeye, which is what I love about it, is the fact that it allows you to manage your entire online reputation, from your listings, your reviews, survey requests, referral requests. Because if you're in the home services business, word of mouth and referrals is super important. You can automate that process as well. And then your social media on top of that. So basically all of those complex channels that we were talking about at the beginning of the webinar, where you have all of these different spider webs out, so to speak, from your business, you can manage it from Birdeye no matter how many locations you have. It's really pretty sweet. But it looks like we're nearing the end of our time. So I want to quickly go through a couple of our last key takeaways. Going back to what Greg has been saying, regularly update your GBP, make sure your information is accurate, drive more reviews, respond to them, show customers, your business, your face if you're in the insurance business. Basically, build that trust with Google and with your customers. Make sure you're consistently generating reviews day in and day out. The recency matters a lot. Stay informed about AI. Read Greg's newsletter. He's always coming up with some great updates on the latest things that are, the latest stories.
It's not going to solve all your problems. It'll be interesting though.
If anything, it'll at least let you know if there is a problem. Because, you know, Greg, you've been on top of it with some of these stories lately. Like the day after the Apple thing came out, I was reading your article. Now, the last thing is considering, you know, a partnership with Birdeye, or at least looking into a platform like with what we do. That makes it a lot easier to manage all this stuff from different locations. But it looks like we're near the end of our time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. But before we jump off completely, Greg, I just wanted to pass the microphone. I'll do microphone. I was going to say baton, but I'll pass the mic over to you. Do you have any parting words, final advice?
I want to say, you know, I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions. There'll be Birdeye follow-ups on verifications and suspensions. You know, thanks for your engagement, your all the questions and all the feedback. You know, just pay attention to your business fundamentals. Do the best job you can for your customers. Be honest. You know, respond to people. Be a good business. Do a good job with the customer experience. That will take you a great distance. This other stuff can be learned and can be managed, but that's the core of everything. And if you do that, many of these other things will follow naturally.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. If you want to learn more about Birdeye, or if you have any questions about the webinar, or if you have questions about the topic, feel free to email us. You can email us at hello@birdeye.com. You can connect with us on LinkedIn. I think my LinkedIn's connected to the page, and you can find Birdeye as well. We're looking at it all. But until next time, thank you again, Greg. It was wonderful to have you on. I think we're going to have
my pleasure.
Webinar
yeah, we're going to we'll do another one later in the year.
We'll have to do a part two. Maybe we can do a part two and come back and see what some of our predictions and analysis, how that turned out.
Yeah, they were all wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys, and we'll see you next time.